Hey, how's it going, everyone? My name is Derek Afasi. I'm the owner of Afasi Financial Group and RetireSharp.com. Today's topic, I want to go in depth and discuss with you what is a partial 401k rollover, why might it be necessary with a specific situation, and just kind of outline the pros and cons of where you could roll over your dollars most effectively, most efficiently. So the very beginning of this video, I'm going to explain to you, the basics of a 401k and then where it might make sense to utilize a partial 401k rollover as opposed to rolling over all of your 401k monies into a type of account, or whether you could splice up certain portions of your 401k, making sure that you're rolling over portions into one that might be set up for an income play, another that might be set up for a growth play, another that might be set up as a safety liquidity play. So there's a whole slew of different things available that allow you to utilize this partial 401k rollover based upon your eligibility. So your eligibility could be an age-based rollover. It could be because you severed employment, and that allows you to roll the dollars over. It could have been because you've retired or there was a change in the plan with the company that was basically monitoring, the investment company that basically held the 401k account, and they might give you certain options to utilize a 401k rollover. So there's some good things regarding a regular 401k plan, and then there's really good things regarding a rollover. The mistake that's made time and time again is individuals would either go and just leave their dollars in their 401k when they're eligible to roll those over, or they just don't know how to roll it over or why it's even necessary to roll over their 401k in its entirety, let alone on a partial 401k sides. As I clear off the screen, we understand that a 401k plan is something known as a defined contribution plan. So back in the day, individuals used to be able to receive something known as defined benefit plans. They're still available. It's very limited, unfortunately. But what used to happen was an individual would work for a company. They'd give that company X amount of years of service, and let's say 30, 35 years worth of service. They would put in overtime to help base out their calculation off of their defined benefit. And right when they hit that 35th year of service, they are eligible to start receiving defined benefit, a set type of retirement income on a monthly basis for both them and their spouse. So if they added more working hours in there and they had higher pay, well then they would be able to receive a higher dollar amount. The reason why a defined benefit plan is important to understand is because it was the groundwork for what retirement accounts or retirement plans were established. So what would happen was an individual would work for a company 30, 35 years. They are deemed retired, and they have X amount of expenses in retirement. So if that defined benefit plan, also known as a pension plan, if those pension monies on a monthly basis were higher than what the expenses were, well then this person had a happy retirement. He didn't have to worry about investing the dollars and trying to choose which mutual funds or stock bond, ETF allocation would basically grow his bucket as much as possible. Basically his loyalty was to the company, and the company's loyalty was to the employee, that they were investing that on the back end and providing that lifetime income stream. So when you incorporate the combination between a type of defined, like a defined benefit plan, like a pension plan with lifetime income, and Social Security with lifetime income, well, if both of that computation of those two factors are coming into this individual's checking account when they're retired, that individual can be happy because they know as long as they keep living and living, and them and their spouse keep living and living, they're going to receive those income sources from that set retirement side. So it's going to be income sources that will always be coming to them. They can never outlive them. And as long as they're higher than the expenses, they didn't have to go back to work, and they could do whatever they wanted in retirement. Well, unfortunately, there was a shift that took place that implemented the 401k plans known as defined contribution plans. And reason being was because there is a risk to the employer when they are establishing these pension plans. They have to basically calculate how long individuals are going to be living, making sure that they're placing dollars aside and those dollars are being invested the right way. Because if you have thousands and thousands of individuals that are working for companies or entities such as the state, such as the federal government, whatever that case might be, if they are not investing those buckets on the back end correctly, and they are not, let's say if there's large downward losses or there's large shifts that are happening on the back end, well, then there's not going to be enough money in that bucket to pay out all those individual recipients for those defined benefit plans. So in 1974, there was a branch of the government known as ERISA that implemented the more traditional type of retirement plans that we understand today. And what it said was, it made individual retirement accounts, or made retirement accounts now available for the employees themselves or for individuals where they could invest their own monies for retirement. So shortly after that, in 1978, you had the implementation of 401k plans that hit the surface. The reason why I bring that up is because during 1978, 1980, you now had the baby boomer generation that started hitting the workforce. So you had the largest influx of Americans hitting the workforce. And instead of all those individuals getting paid or getting set up with defined benefit plans, some still did, but larger portions were going into these defined contribution plans. So what a defined contribution plan did was, like the 401k, what it said was, rather than us invest the dollars for you on the back end and provide you a set income, a set defined benefit for you, what we're going to do is give you options to choose from, and you could invest your own monies, your own salary into these types of retirement accounts. You could save for your own retirement dollars, and you could try to do it the best way you can yourself. So with the 401k plan, I want you to think of that like a bucket. 401k, a 403b, a thrift savings plan, a 457 plan. Break it down into simplistic terms with just saying, how exactly does this bucket go up? How does this bucket get smaller, go down? And it goes by a combination of contributions that you're placing into the bucket, and then also what the rate of return comes back as. So if you have individuals that are now hitting the workforce, and you have, the baby boomer generation that's hitting the workforce, well, what are they doing? Well, they're contributing into their 401k related account because the employer is saying, hey, now it's all on you. Yes, we have a type of retirement plan. So when you start working for a company, you receive your, your employee benefits package, your life insurance, disability insurance, other ancillary products, and then your 401k plan. So as an incentive to retain good employees or to retain employees, some companies provide something known as a match with their 401k that states that, okay, if you're adding, if let's say somebody makes $100,000, you might hear something like the match being 5% match onto your monies. So if somebody adds 5% of their salary into the 401k plan, well, then the company that they're working for is also going to add 5%. So therefore, your contribution side is going to be $10,000 that year. The $5,000 plus the $5,000, and the contribution would be $10,000. So if you're consistently adding contributions into this bucket, that should be growing this bucket. But what is overlooked many times over is this rate of return side. And these are where a lot of the mistakes are made, and the main reason why partial 401k rollers are necessary for an individual situation. So what I mean by that is when you're working for a company and you're contributing to that 401k plan, you're going to receive this benefits package. It's going to say, okay, you could choose anywhere between approximation is right around 5 to about 25 different funds to choose from. So think of them as eggs in your basket. If you go and you're maxing out your contributions, you're just adding in your contributions, you're getting the company match, and everything's going fine on this side. Well, what happens if you mess up and you're choosing the wrong options on the rate of return side, on your actual funds to choose? So let's say if you're heavily invested into things that are related to the stock market, and you experience a 2001 or a 2008 where you're saying, wow, the market's been doing so well for so long, and now I experienced a 2008 where I lost 37%, 47% of my portfolio. Well, that is as if you're taking a sword and you're cutting the bucket in half. So like as an example, you had individuals that walked into 2007 with $1 million in their 401k account. If they got hit with a 40% loss, even though they were still contributing to their plan for many, many years, it was that rate of return side. When it's positive, that's a good thing. When it's negative, it could completely destroy retirement accounts. So in this example, when individuals hit that 40% loss, they ended up losing $400,000 all that 1 year, and now the next year they're walking into the year with $600,000. as a hypothetical example. So, that's a game changer. That's something that will change your lifestyle if you do not choose these funds correctly. So the first thing is, if you're in this 401k plan, you want to make sure that you're at least optimizing what your allocation is and understanding that there are limited funds in that bucket to choose from. So if you have anywhere between 5 to 25 different funds, that's going to be a lot less than other avenues, such as when you roll it over into something known as an IRA, it provides you more funding options, more eggs in your basket to choose from, so you could pick higher quality, lower cost, different things that have had better track record, on a more statistical measurement, a greater statistical measurement than the cruddy 5 to 25 funds that a typical 401k would possess. So what are some things that allow somebody to be eligible to roll over or do a partial 401k rollover? And then, what are some things that you can roll those dollars into? When I'm saying you could roll it over into a traditional IRA or an IRA account, why is that necessary? And how can you splice that up properly to utilize a full 401k account and utilize partial rollovers to make sure that they're fitting like a perfect puzzle piece and it's implementing a perfect retirement situation or a confident retirement plan. So the first thing of eligibility is usually something known as age-based withdrawals or age-based rollovers. And what I mean by that is, typically when you have a 401k account, when you hit age 59 and a half, even though you're still working for the company, typical companies allow you to take portions of the 401k or all of your 401k and roll it over into a type of IRA account. So the first benefit of doing so, even though let's say if somebody just hit age 60 and they understand that they could do this, but they're not going to retire till age 65. Individuals think that, okay, well, if I roll over my 401k into an IRA, that I'm going to be losing the matching money. And that's completely incorrect. That's a misconception. So still, even if you took, let's say if somebody had, $500,000 at the time they're age 60, and they understand that with their 401k bucket goes by contributions and rate of return side, and their funding options are limited to about, 15 different options to choose from, and they want to leverage better options. Let's say they're trying to grow their account as best as possible for these next 5 years. Well, they could do a rollover from the 401k into a traditional IRA, so it does not trigger a taxable event. What happens with the 401k is this is known as a qualified retirement plan. When you roll over to a traditional IRA, it is different than just saying the 401k, let me liquidate that, put that into my checking account, and then I'll invest the money. That is a complete mistake, and that's something that a lot of individuals do make that mistake on, which will hit you with full taxation. So what you want to do is transfer or roll over the dollars like to like terms, qualified to qualified, so that now it's in a new chassis, a new bucket that still has that tax deferred benefits. So with that first scenario, an age-based withdrawal or age-based rollover could make sense, but understand that if you took the $500,000 and you did a full rollover into a traditional IRA, well, now your account value starting with your 401k that next week, that next month, is going to be starting at $0. So whether you still contributed 5% of your salary and you're getting a 5% match, that's not going to make a difference, because if you're throwing $5,000 per year into the plan, you're still going to be getting a $5,000 match, and therefore $10,000 is still going to be going into the bucket with that example on that contribution side. That's not going to change anything. It's not as if, like, when you have the $500,000 bucket and you're putting 5% and they're matching 5%, $10,000 is still going into that bucket. It's not changing your overall value off of what your total qualified retirement assets are. So the only difference would be you'd be starting from $0 and you just want to optimize the rate of return, the different funding options from your age of 60 till that individual's retirement date at age 65. So that's the first aspect. That's the first step, is an age-based withdrawal or an age-based rollover, and you could do this on a partial side. So let's say if you have $500,000 that's sitting in the 401k account, and you wanted to leverage 100,000 of it towards an income play, 100,000 of it towards a safe growth play, and then another, $200,000 of it towards a max growth play, and you just wanted to leave $100,000 in the 401k account, you could do all of these different things to make sure that you're setting up the partial 401k rollovers and it's segmenting like a perfect puzzle piece, and there's a reason for that. So I'm going to tackle that right after I go through kind of what are some of the eligibility, some of the things that you could be eligible to roll this over, and I'm going to show you a couple of scenarios with when individuals do this and how it's able to optimize their retirement strategy rather than just setting into a 401k, forgetting it, and hoping that these 5 to 25 options are going to do its job. The next form of eligibility might not be age-based, but it might just be that service-based. So let's say, as an example, Fidelity Investments is the one that is housing the 401k account, and your employer decides that they don't want to go with Fidelity Investments anymore. They now want to go with, T. Rowe Price as an example. Well, when they make that change, sometimes you might receive a letter in the mail that says, hey, because we're changing the servicing company, you are eligible to take a partial rollover with your 401k, or you could do a full rollover with your 401k, and you could set that up onto different, different segments into individual retirement accounts, different rollovers into individual retirement accounts. So that's the second aspect, is usually when you have the service company that is changing. So that's step number 2. And there's a few different things. I'm just going to go over the 3 most common ones. And the very last one is when you have old 401k. So this is when you sever employment. So whether you hit retirement age and you decide, okay, I'm going to call it quits, I'm going to retire, well, now you're eligible to take that 401k account and do partial rollovers or do full rollovers to that 401k account. If you go and let's say you're working for a company and you could be in your 30s, you could be in your 40s, and now you stopped working for that company, you started working for a new company. Well, now that old company still has that 401k that's sitting there, so therefore you're eligible to do rollovers with that old 401k. Mistakes are made that individuals take those old 401k monies and they'll roll it over into the new company 401k. Typically, it's not going to be most beneficial because of the limited funding options of, when you're going from one 401k, you're going to have about 5 to 25 different eggs in your basket to choose from. If you were to go and transfer that into the new company 401k, well, you're still going to be having right around 5 to 25 eggs in your basket to choose from. So typically what makes sense is to figure out where you are and when you want to retire, and try to create a type of retirement plan, and then you're able to roll over those dollars into specifically designed IRA contracts that are going to work in conjunction with one another to give you that overall chance of retirement success. So now some common examples on why somebody would want to do a 401k rollover, a partial 401k rollover, is to set it up to what their needs are. So let's just say we have an individual, as our first example, we have an individual that's currently age 60. So they're eligible for that age service withdrawal or the age service rollover. They currently have, we'll use that $500,000 example, into their 401k account, and they do not want to retire until they hit age 65. Reason being is because they understand at age 65 they could have Medicare that would kick in to cover their health insurance, and then they're going to be triggering Social Security income at that point of time as well. So whenever we're looking at the bird's eye view, the 30,000 foot view of what is an individual situation, we want to understand where their point A is, and then what are the different things that they could do to be most effectively, most efficiently to get to point B and onward. So with this sort of situation, we want to attribute to the 3 things that every individual needs to figure out before they're retired or currently retired, and how to stay retired forever. The first thing is income sources. They want to make sure that they have a plentiful amount of income sources, and those income sources would be able to get triggered at that age 65. So we want to try to figure out, or help an individual figure out, what are their expenses today, and then what are their expenses going to be at age, with this individual the hypothetical individual situation, at age 65. So let's say we determine by age 65 they're going to need $40,000 of income for retirement, of expenses. Those are their expenses in their retirement years from age 65 onward. So if we understand that this is the major goal, this person has a bucket of $500,000. Well, what are their income sources? If they are not eligible, if they have not received a defined benefit plan, like a pension plan, like I mentioned at the beginning of this video, and they are only in the 401k plan, well, then they're most likely going to be receiving that Social Security income. That's going to be the first income source. So if Social Security income is $30,000 and they have a bucket of $500,000 that's sitting there, well, then we understand that their goal is a $10,000 gap. We need to leverage out of this $500,000. We need to leverage the smallest portion, the smallest partial rollover, and place that into a type of IRA that provides a lifetime income stream on a monthly basis, or a lifetime income stream on an annual basis, to suffice what those $10,000 goal is. So maybe after doing all the math, and we're finding based upon that person's area, and we're finding the best solution, we might determine that the top strategy would be utilizing $100,000 into an IRA hybrid annuity, so they're not losing control of their monies. We're utilizing an income rider, and that is going to produce, if they put in $100,000 today, by age 65, they're able to trigger lifetime income of $10,000, and therefore their income goal is going to be sufficed. $30,000 of Social Security income, $10,000 from the IRA annuity income, and they'll be able to live, and that will stay consistent with them for the rest of them or them and their spouse's life, depending upon how they set that up. So what this tells us is we just did one partial 401k rollover into a specifically designed IRA annuity account. So it was a specifically designed IRA. Most likely with that 401k plan, if this person's not eligible with any sort of annuity, well, then they couldn't receive that lifetime income stream without leveraging that, or at least waiting till age 65 to do so. So because their in-service, their age-based in-service rollover allowed us to do that, we only needed $100,000 out of the $500,000 because their goal was to produce $40,000. That's the first step. The second step is emergency funds. Rule of thumb is an individual wants to have anywhere between, or should have anywhere between 6 to 12 months of reserves that they could access at any time in case of an oh my gosh moment that was to occur. So we could either leave this portion in the 401k, or we could just take the dollars. We could utilize $50,000 because their annual expenses are about $40,000. We could say $50,000. We could roll that over into take a partial 401k rollover into an IRA money market account that is not going to gain, not really going to lose. It's just something that's completely liquid that you could pull from at any time if need be. So with our original $500,000, we only put $100,000 into the IRA annuity. We put $50,000 into the IRA money market account, and now we have $350,000 that we could try to grow on as much of a consistent basis as possible. So this is where the step number 3 is inflationary protection. And what I mean by inflationary protection is something known as purchasing power risk. If this individual at age 65 has expenses of $40,000, well, some of those expenses might be fixed. Other expenses might be inflationary. So like the cost of goods and services will be increasing, rule of thumb, between 2 to 4% in a given year to keep pace with inflation. So maybe by the time they're age 67, their expenses are going to go from $40,000 to $42,000. Maybe by the time they're age 70, it's going to go to $45,000. So we want to make sure that we have a plan in play to combat that purchasing power risk and provide a type of inflationary step up in there. And this is where you could go and try to choose different, better eggs in your basket to choose from. This is where you could leverage like a managed money strategy, where saying instead of only utilizing the 5 to 25 different funds in your 401k related basket, if you go and you roll your money over into a traditional IRA, an individual could have anywhere between 3,000 to 5,000 different eggs in their basket to choose from. So it just allows you to cherry pick more, essentially higher quality, cheaper cost, better funds to try to grow your account on a more consistent basis, eliminate any sort of drawdowns or negatives to that account, and you could customize this a lot better. So out of this original $500,000, with just this really simple formula, you comprise 3 separate IRA accounts that are now all working in conjunction with one another, so that by the time this person hits age 65, they're extremely satisfied and they are happy with their retirement. They know everything that's going on. They have enough income that's going to suffice what their expenses are. they have enough emergency funds in there, and they also have enough inflationary protection in there as well, rather than just saying, oh, I'm just going to leave it in my 401k and everything should work itself out. So that quick example, that shows you a plan, that shows you a strategy rather than a big question mark, rather than a guess. And too often individuals have that big question mark, they have that guess, and they just say, I'm just going to leave it in my 401k, I'm just going to, keep setting it up the way it has been doing, and hoping that I do not have a downward market loss that occurs before retirement and then also throughout retirement. And what they fall victim to is something known as reverse dollar cost averaging. Reverse dollar cost averaging is a computation of negative aspects that could completely liquidate a retirement account. So what I mean by that is when you have a 401k plan, there are certain expenses with this 401k plan. So, as an example, if somebody had, $1 million in their 401k, just for really easy math, and they were trying to accumulate their dollars and trying to pick the best, 5 to 25 different funds to choose from that are eligible within their 401k, and they experience a downward market loss, well, that could be really detrimental to their position. As an example, I always use the 2001 to 2008 because this is going to be the more recent, really bad, bearish times that that individuals have experienced, still fresh in their minds because they never want to, they never want to, result in that drawdown again. So as an example, if somebody had $1 million and let's say that they were paying 401k related fees and mutual fund related fees of right around 1%, and that's being very conservative, that's already a negative. So that's a hole in the bottom of your bucket to begin with. If let's say you had a financial advisor that was trying to monitor that account, and for their services they're charging you a 1% fee, well then now that's 2%. That's another hole that's coming out of the bottom of your bucket. So what this tells us is that your account has to at least gain 2% just to break even. Your funds need to gain at least 2% just to break 0%, for you to not lose any dollars to stay at that $1 million. Well, if we experience a downward market loss like a 10%, which is a very realistic example, when you had portfolios in 2008 that lost anywhere between minus 30% to minus 60%, if you just had a minus 10% loss in there, or let's say we're bringing this into dollar amounts, say your 401k related fees are right around $10,000 in a given year, the advisor fees are right around $10,000 in a given year, and you experience a $100,000 loss, and let's say you decide, because you're retired, you just decide to pull out, 5% or $50,000 that year, well, you would have only taken out $50,000 from that account, but you're next year walking into, with just this very small realistic 10% loss, your new account value would be sitting at $830,000. That's a lifestyle change. You would have only taken $50,000, but you would have ended up losing $170,000 worth of value. That's a big difference. The next year, let's say if you experience a larger loss, or you just had a very consistent gain and then you experience a large loss, well, bam, if you experience a 40% loss in there, your 830 could go down to 500, could go down to $400,000. So the longer and longer that you're living, if you don't have a plan in place, well, then that further makes you fall victim to that reverse dollar cost averaging effect, makes you susceptible to that reverse dollar cost averaging effect, and you have the power of compound interest. Rather than work in a positive direction, it's working in a negative direction because you're pulling money from an account that could receive negatives on top of additional fees time and time again. So that's essentially what we're trying to avoid, is just giving you more eggs in your basket to choose from, or allowing you to understand that there's more eggs in your basket to choose from. Sometimes individuals don't even have to leverage, like let's say if we're going through those 3 steps, we understand income, emergency, and inflation. Well, maybe they might have a combination of a 401k account, and they might also have pension income, and they will have Social Security income. So if that individual that's 60 years old, they understand by the time they're 65, let's say their expenses were $50,000, but they're receiving Social Security income of $30,000, and they're also receiving pension income of $30,000. Well, they're at $60,000 of income. They don't need to take $500,000. They don't even need to use $100,000 out of that $500 to place into an IRA annuity. Their income sources are covered, so therefore you could go down to step number 2. Well, with that, maybe we want to keep about $50,000 liquid, and therefore that could be a partial 401k rollover into an IRA money market account, and then the next one is for inflationary protection, providing you with higher quality funds, anywhere between 3,000 to 5,000 different eggs to choose from, and this is why individuals go towards that managed money route. So, there's different pieces in there. You could have, a max income plan and less of an inflationary plan, more of an income plan and inflationary plan and nothing in the emergency fund plan because you have other accounts that are sitting there. So, it really just depends upon your individual situation, but rather than leave it to chance, rather than leave that big question mark sitting there, it's just all about making sure that you're looking at your current point A, trying to figure out what is most effective, most efficient right now, how to make sure that you're utilizing that efficiency to point B, your retirement age, and then how do you retire, how do you preserve those accounts and make proper distributions on those accounts at your retirement to make sure that's going to last you for you or you and your spouse's life, obviously till the day you pass away. And then you also have, legacy planning, you could have estate planning, different things that all come into play to try to grow these accounts or at least leave those dollars to your loved ones most effectively, most efficiently. So there's a whole slew of different things. The main takeaway I want you to understand is that yes, partial 401k rollovers are necessary and you can be eligible for those depending upon what your situation is. So if you found value in this video and you want specific recommendations, please feel free to give our office a call. It's 1-800-566-1002. We offer 24-hour customer service, mornings, nights, weekends, holidays, whatever the case may be. You could give us a call, and then you just basically reference whatever video you saw, this partial 401k rollover, and say, hey, I want to speak to a specialist. I want to see kind of what my situation is and see if you guys could help me out, have a better grasp on it. There might be that you might not be eligible to roll those monies over, where you might just want to optimize your 401k a little bit better until you are eligible. There might be that you are completely eligible, and we could go and splice up into different lanes to say, okay, this is what's going to work most effectively, most efficiently with your plan. But essentially this is what we're here for. And probably the most efficient way, you can give us a call, obviously through our 800 number. We also have somebody standing by to take your phone calls. We work on a national basis. But the more efficient and effective route would be to go through our digital calendar online. So this is our website. You could go to retiresharp.com or fosseyfinancial.com. They both bring you to the same exact place. Regarding however you type it into your browser, it's all going to go to the same website. And what you're going to see is a little icon that pops up on the bottom right-hand side of the screen that says schedule appointment. So you could actually look at our schedule and then you could set it up specifically with the specialist and just write a little notation, say, hey, I saw this video, I was interested in, financial planning, or I was interested in, whatever sort of things, a growth strategy, a consistent strategy, a budget analysis, a 401k stress test, whatever that case might be. But this is usually what is most effective, most efficient, and then we'll make sure to designate some time, about a half an hour to go and discuss with you everything regarding what might make mathematical sense for your exact situation. So I hope you found value in this video. Please feel free to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Retire Sharp, so you could have access to the most updated videos. And we look forward to speaking with you and hope you got some education out of this and it was able to at least direct you properly. Thank you so much, guys.